Thanks so much for joining me again as we take a look at another topic. This one is race. This is probably the one you thought most of when you look at the topic of diversity, equity, and inclusion, or the concept of marginalized population. Race is one topic that is pretty broad, and so I'm covering it. Only a few concepts involved in it, but I encourage you to really take a look at some of these links that I'm sharing to get a broader, bigger picture of issues and concerns. First thing we're taking a look at is the unemployment rate. This is from 2016, and if looking at this, you'll see overall that they're saying that total unemployment rate is about a little under 5%, and even a little bit lower overall for whites. But take a look at Black and African American, the rates are significantly higher. And you're also looking at Hispanic and Latino is also very higher than the total average, and very much so higher than whites or Asian Americans. So it's very interesting in looking at overall unemployment rate. Here's another snapshot at unemployment rate. And one thing I want to point out within this is if you look at the 20 to 24-year-olds, overall it's at 8.6, which is pretty high. But you also look then at whites, it's 7.2. You look at African Americans, 16.3. So these are our youth, basically our young adults out of high school, maybe in college, maybe not, but overall the rates of unemployment are significantly higher than even Asian or Hispanic Americans. Here's a snapshot looking at employed people by occupation and breaking it down by race, Hispanic or Latino ethnicity. This is from 2014. A few things that stand out to me in here. One is the level of participation in the service sector. Vary over 25% in African American and 26% in Latino or Hispanic. Also very much overall, pretty much all levels have some high levels of sales and office work. But one thing really point out also is for in natural resource construction and maintenance is the high level participation in Hispanic Latino populations. So significantly high and still kind of very high overall numbers in the production, transportation, and material moving segment of the population. Here's another look at labor markets race composition and looking at their average median earnings. Asian American, they're saying have a high concentration of over 210 occupations, which is a high number, so very diverse in all kind of segments of the workforce. But overall looking at medical scientists, skincare specialists, software developers, again, the high median or overall very high average median earnings, especially in comparison to Hispanic and Latino workers. Diversity into 144 occupation, but your occupations are plaster and stucco masons, farm laborers, interpreters, translators, and again, a much significant lower rate overall of earnings. We know that we have been looking at, studies have shown that looking at educational attainment, the higher level of attainment, in terms of college or even out of post-high school certificates, associate degrees, those kind of things, have a higher rate of participation or more opportunities within the workforce. A few things stand out to me from this grant. One is looking at Hispanic Latino workers, the number that don't even finish high school. And there's some who do finish high school, but overall looking at college, even some level of college, associate degree or even completion of a bachelor's degree is significantly lower, especially in comparison to whites and Asian Americans, even African Americans. We have a good majority that do finish high school, and some have college, but overall the numbers of who complete is significantly less than whites or Asian Americans. One concept I want to bring up and encourage you really to explore is this idea of school to prison pipeline. And this chart looks at the number of male juveniles in residential custody, but there's more information about the number of disciplinary conduct situations that young boys, African American boys, seem to find themselves in our school systems. They're more likely to be suspended or involved in school-related arrest. So there's some things to really take a look at as to what kind of environment, what resources school officials have to really feel comfortable addressing issues and concerns. A lot of times I think folks may act up, and then versus trying to figure out what's going on, they're suspended. And so really take a look at this idea of the number of disciplinary cases and the fact that so many are not successful in high school, and so it leads to, you know, not successful in the workforce, or as many end up in prison. And I encourage you, if you haven't checked out the ex-offender video that I've done, and take a look at some of the issues and concerns there. We're going to take a really small look at some legislation that's been put in place over the years to really take a look at leveling the playing field, or battling discrimination against African Americans, Hispanic, other people of ethnicity and races. This first, we'll take a look at Executive Order 10925, which came out in 1961, and this is really the first time you really hear about affirmative action. This is President Kennedy put this out, and really said to targeted government contractors to really take a look at to take affirmative action to ensure that applicants are employed and that employees are treated during employment without regard to their race, creed, color, or national origin. This was actually expanded then in 1969 to provide, not just government contractors, but employment opportunity within the federal government. And this took a look at race, color, religion, sex, national origin, handicap, or age, to really look at full realization of equal employment opportunity. The Civil Rights Act, in particular Title VI, looks at prohibiting against exclusion from participation and denial of benefits or discrimination under federally assisted programs on ground of race, color, and national origin. So really look at, trying to address the barriers that people put in place, to really combat discrimination here. And again, another one to take a look at is our friend, the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act. Even this is from 2014, but they're still felt necessary to put in a section 188 that looked at non-discrimination and equal opportunity for people from what often called now protected classes. Mentions discrimination, and I think that's something that we really need to take a look at, and really kind of looking at the environment and opportunities that we're providing. 69% of blacks and 57% of Hispanics say past and present discrimination is a major reason for problems facing people of their racial and ethnic group. 26% of blacks and 15% of Hispanics said that they felt that they've been treated unfairly because of their race or ethnicity at their place of work in the past 30 days. And this is from a 2015 CNN Kaiser Family Foundation poll. We're actually going to take a look at a video here that even takes a little more so look at the study that they have done and some of the results of it. I think we find it interesting.
The United States is often called the Great Melting Pot, but it's a country that's struggled with race relations throughout its history and still does today. A 2015 CNN and Kaiser Family Foundation poll found about half of Americans think racism is a big problem, one that doesn't seem to be getting better. 2/3 said racial tensions in the United States had increased over the last decade. More than half of blacks said they had experienced some form of racial discrimination in their lifetimes, from being denied a job to fearing for their lives. About 1/3 of whites and Hispanics reported similar experiences. Blacks and Hispanics were also far more likely than whites to say that they had been unfairly treated in the last month in a public place, such as a restaurant or in a store, because of their race. Segregation is still a reality as well, at work and at home. 60% of whites said their work colleagues were all or mostly white, and close to 70% of whites said either their social circle or their neighborhood was mostly white. When asked if certain factors, like discrimination, a lack of educational opportunities, and broken families, played a major role in the social and economic problems facing their communities, the majority of blacks and Hispanics said yes. But even so, there is optimism. A majority of blacks and Hispanics aged 18 to 34 say it's easier for them to achieve the American dream than it was for their parents. Only 31% of young white adults said the same.
The rest of the presentation provides just a look at a variety of articles and some resources, and I really encourage you to take a look at them and check them out. I live in Memphis, and which is a predominantly African American city. But there's still a lot of racial strife, and there's an idea presented here, the new Jim Crow laws. It's very kind of disheartening to think about such a short time ago there was such blatant discrimination in terms of separate entrances and water fountains and that kind of thing. And you really look at our history and the adversity that's there. Again, here's some articles to take a look at. Some will take a look at U.S. education from the K through 12 environment and what resources and services are provided to really support students as they grow and develop. Again, some articles, and then there's some resources to take a look at. One thing I will highlight on this, one is President Obama back in 2014 created a new initiative called My Brother's Keepers. And this was really an opportunity to take a look at young African American men and what resources are available for them. And this was a partnership with several businesses that were making a pledge to really hire more African American men. And so I encourage you to take a look at this and the other programs that are available on this page. Thank you so much.